Hello and welcome back to the development of the Feersum scheme compiler. So in today's episode, we're going to look at continuing the work for building a .NET SDK. The idea is that we do a little bit of work with MSBuild and then it allows us to define projects just like you can define F# projects and C# projects, and that will use our compiler to build .NET libraries. So let's go over what we did in the last stream. In the last stream, we were mainly working around in this example, and it was an awful lot of XML, and hopefully, if today's goes well, it'll be the last of the XML. Davkind. Yes. I've gone for Lapsang Shusong today. So I find that one of the keys of streaming is picking a tea that doesn't taste rank when it's cold, because inevitably I don't end up drinking it all before it ends up going cold. So I don't mind just drinking black Lapsang Shusong cold. Yeah, XML. So let's have a look at a compelling example. So we've got the Feersum compiler itself is a .NET SDK project. So it's basically an MSBuild project, and instead of it having like XML stuff that says like I like using a teapot at work to avoid that certificate. So yeah, I also am the person who's there on the work calls with a pot of tea and a tea cozy. Just yeah, there's only so much desk space, and when I'm streaming, some of it needs to be taken up with comment streams and stuff like that. Yeah, SDK. So the SDK reference here means that MSBuild will go off and try and find that SDK. And an SDK is basically a pair of props file and target file. I'll go into what they are in a bit. So what happens is once MSBuild has found that SDK, it works through all of the property groups and item groups, and then the SDK gets inserted at the top and the bottom. So what this actually kind of works like is, instead of you saying this, I think it works like you're going SD. I'm really going to struggle on this one. Like this, and then down here, like that. So in theory, that should do the same thing. But the SDK equals is just like sugar for doing the same thing. Let's see whether or not this build actually works, whether or not I'm chatting shit or not. There you go. It still works. So if I just undo that, because we don't want to make that change. In our example, we want to be able to define our own SDK. So we need to have a pair of props files and target files as well. So what is a prop and what is a tag? So the idea is that you have all of your properties that are defined at the beginning, and then the body of the main project can then update them and override them. So for example, if you didn't set output type to XC, it would be whatever it was defined to in the props file initially, and then all of the items get defined, and then at the bottom we define targets that work on those items, so that when you say .NET build, we know from what we did in the last stream, .NET build will end up calling core compile, and core compile then gets to run on all of the compile items that we define in the item group, and then we end up producing, in this case, we end up producing something that's named where is it? Yes, intermediate assembly. So I think the first place we'll go in this stream is just review what we have at the moment in our example. So some of this is specific to the fact that, well, some of it's a bit hacky and some of this is stuff we want to port over to the SDK. So we have this property group which looks like a real property group you'd get in a proper .NET project, where we're defining the output type, packaging style, target framework, and all the rest of that. So this is controlling how the .NET SDK resolution will go off and find an MS core lib for us. We've got an item group, just like the F# example. We have to explicitly include all of our compile items rather than implicitly including them, because we care about the order of compile items. And if you didn't, then it would just be in whatever order the globbing finds them, which is fine for C# because C# properly supports mutual recursion, but I'm not quite sure how we want to support multi-file projects yet. And then this bit is a property group that's going to disable some bits of the MSBuild SDK that we don't want to use. So I think this is custom stuff that we want to put into our props file. We've got this item group which defines a dependency, because for our SDK to be able to build things, we need to have the compiler and the standard library. So we have a reference to the standard library, and we have a reference to the compiler itself. When we actually package this up as a NuGet package, these will have to be actual NuGet references. But for the time being, we have project references. We control the configuration that the compiler is built in. Then we have the two target definitions. The first one, create manifest resource names. So I had a look at what this is actually supposed to do, and in a fair number of SDKs it does absolutely nothing. But the idea behind this is you can embed resources inside .NET assemblies. Create manifest resource names is supposed to produce the names that those resources will end up being embedded by. So there was, yeah, in F#, if you embed things, the actual names don't actually end up being the same as if you were to embed them using the C# toolchain. So that's what the idea behind that target, but we don't really support embedded resources or anything like that yet, so we can just leave it empty and just not support that. And then the actual important target, which is core compile. So the compilation step is the only bit that we actually want to override from the base MSBuild, base Microsoft.NET.SDK. So this is the only bit that we'll actually include in our SDK, and we'll actually then defer out to the real MSBuild SDK. The Microsoft.NET SDK. And in here we have the item group where we transform the scheme files that we want to compile and the reference to MS core lib, so that we pick from all of the references only those that are to the core libraries, and then the property group where we define all of the different bits that we use to build up our build commands. So we have like the path to the compiler, the path to the reference, and so on and so forth. And then at the bottom, we do this exec of the build command that we've produced. So I'm going to start picking this apart into props file and targets file. First, though, it's probably worth going over an example of what we want to end up building. So, as well as being able to have CS projects and well, you can have VB projects if you're that old school, and F# projects. There's also an SDK that Microsoft produces for just compiling IL. So IL is the .NET intermediate language, and you can compile that into an assembly using a tool called ILAssem, which is the intermediate language assembler. And this SDK packages up the ability to do that, so it's doing the same thing that we want to be able to do. And it's doing it using this .NET package. So if you have a look, there's not a huge amount to it. There's version, which is produced by NuGet when it's packed. We've got an icon so that they can reference it in their package description. We've got a bit of package metadata that tells you who the owners are and all the rest of that kind of stuff. And then you've got these two folders. You've got SDK and targets. So in SDK, this is the structure that we have to mimic. So you have to have a folder called SDK, and you have to have an SDK.props and an SDK.targets, and they both have to be valid MSBuild files. Now, they don't actually have to do anything, so you can just have an empty project element, but they do need to exist, otherwise it won't be recognized as an SDK package. So in this case, what happens is, on the props file, it's slightly simpler. We've basically got a bunch of leading trivia. It has a declaration of a property group which adds this file path to the variable MSBuild all projects, and then it imports the Microsoft.NET SDK props file. We might want to define extra properties here, but we'll see. And then in the targets file, it does something similar, but it also adds this language targets. So in the case that your project extension is ilproj, then it adds the SDK IL common targets from the targets folder. If we have a look at the targets folder, we have this IL common targets, which is again an MSBuild project file, and it has a bit where it's working out whether or not it's a cross-targeting build. I don't think we're going to need to worry about that, but it basically imports the SDK IL targets where the actual interesting stuff is. So I think this is what our project would probably be slightly simpler. Just have us SDK props, SDK targets, and an SDK targets file in the targets folder. In here, they have all of the property groups defined and all of the targets defined. You notice that it's got the same create manifest resource names. It's also got extra targets for disassembling files and things like that, which we don't need. And then they have their core compile definition, which does a similar thing where it builds up a list of switches, and then it does an exec, and that's it basically. So the first thing we're going to do is split things out into props and targets, and then import them here. So I'm going to make two new files. I'm just going to call them SDK props. Casing matters on the extension, I believe. SDK.props and SDK.targets. And what we're going to do is we're going to convert our main project file from being an SDK style project to an actual old school MSBuild project, which we do by taking away the SDK attribute and replacing it with the XML namespace for MSBuild, It says failing to copy and paste the first time. No, why? What? Come on. Copy. Can't believe I had to use a right-click menu if this works. Nope. Still not there. Don't know. Copied. Can't believe copy and pasting is going to be. I'm not typing that out by hand. Okay. So copy and pasting is working within Firefox. It's just not working into code. Has code died? Maybe. Nope. Drag and drop. Nope. Let's kill and reopen code. Just in case something crazy is happening. Nope. Still not liking it. Can I copy and paste inside code itself? Okay, so that works. Can I paste this into Emacs? Nope. So it's... Oh, interesting. Is that crashed Emacs? Welcome to Linux. Still probably more stable than Windows 11. I've not used Windows in years, so who knows. Great. I'm gonna have to kill Emacs because it's not responding. Close. Nope. Stream overview back up. Carefully position. Can't believe we're deep into this deep into a yak shape, and the yak shape is copying and pasting. .NET runtime. I'm gonna have to go to the source repository for this. The IR project's actually in the core CLR runtime. SDK. Right. Have you copied? Nope. Not in a way that I can paste. Maybe I need to close and reopen Firefox. github.com.net runtime. And then it was sdk.props in here. Right click, copy. I don't know why I trust the right click menu more than, yeah. Maybe his code's broken for a while. I think something serious is going on here. I guess let's find this, go to the raw, save it to the desktop or the downloads, it's fine, and then just open that. This must work, surely. And then his copy and paste is going to work inside here. It probably would have been quicker to type that URL out now, but this is the 21st century, I refuse. So instead of our SDK, we're gonna define this as being an MSBuild project, because we're gonna have to do that for the time being, and we don't need, but we should have an XML coding declaration. So then we want the standard bits, and so we're gonna do a project include, like we did, like the IL does. No, not the IL. Like we did before for the SDK reference. So that was in here. I can just read this and copy it across. So it's import project equals. So we're going to do that at the top. Project equals sdk.props. I think that should be okay. That's going to look in the current directory. Maybe we need MSBuild this file directory like that. And then we also want one of those for the targets. I'm going to move that down to the bottom. Now both of those files should be empty projects for the time being. So let's copy the whole thing, paste it in once, and get rid of the Microsofty bits. And in here, we just want this to be import project equals sdk.props from sdk equals microsoft.net.sdk. Then we can take the whole file and put it as the targets. And then I think that should be us done. I think this should then still work exactly the same way it used to. So we'll see. Proof is in the build. I think we've probably stolen enough from that targets file now. Only actually wanted that XML namespace declaration. Then we want to move our targets into the target definition. I think we also want this reference to the compiler to be in here as well. I don't know about the produce reference assembly. We might want that to be in the props file. Let's have a look at the what the ILproj stuff did. It's downloading. So in their SDK, in their props file, they didn't have anything interesting. And in their targets file, they did the default language source extension, they did the language. Does this do reference? Yeah. So I think we probably want that to be in our target file as well. It doesn't really matter which one is which, I don't think, other than controlling the order. So like you can put both kinds of things, both properties and that kind of stuff. Also, is this the right indentation? We're doing 4 spaces. That's 2 spaces. So props and targets. The proj file was 2. I think this is an editor config thing, isn't it? So let's do star dot targets star dot props indent I'll do the indent style first equals space indent size equals 2. Then just unindent everything. Oh dear. That's probably the best. And then re-indent everything. I do kind of miss the fact that you used to just be able to do this as one big thing in Emacs. So you've got default compile items. We've got the project reference to get back to our compiler. We've got the manifest resource names things, the compile items, that's the inputs to our actual compiler, property group for that, and the exec for the target at the end. And that whole thing is the body of the target, so it needs to be indented. And it is at this point, as I realize, the indent style has not been applied. Nope. What? Okay, so it appears that this is the proper way to do that. Now let's see. Nope. That is a props file, and then our editor config. Why is that not applying? Star dot match multiple files with a brace expression notation. That's what I'm trying to do. Editor config. Maybe I need to do like editor config. Am I missing an extension? I am. I mean, yes, please. Right, now we realize that it's not working. Great. So then back to the targets file. Unindent. Magic. Right, then this needs an unindent. And this needs an unindent. Things just sliding off the end of the screen otherwise. So we're good. And if we build, hopefully it still produces that executable. We do have to wait for it to build everything twice now because it builds. We're building in the debug configuration, and it is at this point that I realize that it's not in the solution, so we're not compiling it. So I have no idea if I've actually broken that at all. So let's go examples, amples. Wow, it's a good day. Import SDK. Unrecognized. What are we talking about? This file. Because it's skd, not SDK. Fair enough. It's probably, most likely, means that this file also has SDK instead. And I've still not done the right build. Right. Does this even still work? It does. Great. So we've separated it out into an SDK props and an SDK targets. What do we need? I'm just wondering. So we have this Feersum compiler path. I'm wondering if we move that into the props file and then in the targets file we could make that conditional depending on whether or not someone's already specified it. So you'd be able to override the path to the compiler and potentially also the path to the core library. But for the time being, let's go add this to the solution. Yeah, it's just one level up. Add dot. Cannot be added to the solution. Contact your SDK provider for support. Maybe we could. We'll wait until it has a proper SDK again. Or I think there is an SDK for no build targets. And we're back. OBS crashed. Wonderful. So I'm still battling around with the SDK stuff, and I've built this Feersum.sdk project. The Feersum SDK project has an SDK folder and a targets folder, and we have a CS proj. Ooh, is that the idea? Do we want to just make this something different? We can just make this a .proj maybe. So the problem I'm having is when I try and pack the SDK, it's complaining because it says that I don't have anything built, and the whole point was that, you know, this wasn't supposed to be anything to build. So if I can change this, I noticed that can either just use proj. Is that going to work better? No, it's still not happy. But I might be able to get rid of the target framework. No. How do we generate a NuGet package with no target framework? So somehow or other, the authors of this, the Microsoft.NET SDK IL project, have managed it. So surely we can do the same. And I was looking at the way that they build it. They've got the this package proj, which maybe it's in one of the higher level build directory build props. Their package projects aren't SDK style, but maybe we can make it. I'll skip package file check. Maybe it's that. Maybe if we just do that, it's all good. Copying and pasting is still broken. Come on. Yeah, so we still need the target framework. No one it is. No one at least suppresses it. 5128. 5128. Let's go right to the root and build the whole thing. Feersum SDK CS Proj, because it isn't a CS Proj anymore. Where's the solution? It's this thing. Everyone's favorite text file format. Microsoft solution files are incredibly difficult to actually diff and merge as text files. They're not really, but they are close enough that it just about works sometimes. So that build has worked. Has it? Yes. So the SDK has produced nothing, which is correct, I guess. And then if we do pack, hopefully we should end up with a nice set of NuGet packages in our artifacts folder like this. We should probably also add artifacts to the ignore. Now, can we build our example still? Hello world. No, there is no target in the project. Because we need to explicitly include the directory build targets. /directory.build targets. This is because this is not an SDK style project. This is import project equals a runnable project should target a runnable target framework moniker. I think we might need a build props to and in the build props we'll do the same thing we do in the build targets, kind of. Now let's do the SDK. Let's do the SDK, the full SDK. So the full SDK, what's the difference? I can't remember. It was only like half an hour ago. That imports the SDK, that imports the Microsoft SDK, and then our targets. Oh no, I remember. So the idea was, we don't need this build props file. We can trash that. The idea was that the build targets includes our SDK targets, and then hello world.scm proj can use the Microsoft no build or something like that. And we just add the extra SDK property. In fact, it could just be Microsoft.net.sdk, I think, probably. SDK equals Microsoft.net.sdk. Get rid of that, get rid of that. The build should be automatically imported. Okay, so that's advanced. We are not in the right place. We need to go up one, but not down into the source. The referenced project. Yeah, that needs to be MSBuild, this file directory. Like that. I never know whether or not I'm supposed to put a slash at the end of that or not. I think not. Feersum SDK targets. So we need to go up 2. While this is okay. The command execute code 1, build failed, fix the errors and run again. Well, .NET run, let's do .NET build with a bit more. B equals N, which is verbosity is normal, which you'd have thought was the default, but apparently not. Okay, so that needs to have this. This needs to be that. Also, I think I've got the casing wrong there. Could not execute because the file was not found. So that needs to go up to, because we're going out of the SDK folder. Did I do the same thing up above? Yes, I did. Why is the slashes different in both directions? I don't know. Well, that's interesting because that looks like it's an error from us. Oh, file name example.scm because it's called hello now. I'm just going to rename that folder before I forget. Artifacts. I must have typoed that. Yes, good. This needs to be hello. Core compile.net run. Hopefully this should realize that it doesn't need to recompile, but there you go. So let's run through this and what we've got. We have added artifacts to the git ignore, added the SDK projects to the solution. We've added directory build props so that the example folder, any .NET project in the example folder will go and find our target file and use that for building. We've moved hello world.scm. We have updated our project. We've got an SDK project that produces our NuGet file. We've got our SDK props, our SDK targets, the Feersum compiler targets themselves, and I guess this is move SDK props. Add some SDK project. Move our custom props and targets to an SDK NuGet package. So this SDK, this bit, the SDK bit, fine. This targets file is very specific to being run on as part of this. So what we need to do is refactor this so that we want to refactor it so that we can use the same targets file seamlessly as both part of the SDK project and from our example. So what I propose is we add a new file, directory.build.props, and in here we do the same kind of thing we did in the main SDK targets for referencing the compiler. And for the time being, we'll just steal the whole thing. So what we want to do is add a project reference. We can just let the configuration flow through there. So the project reference should be up one level, down into source. And then we'll also have, we'll define a property for Feersum compiler path. So if we don't have this, we can define it in our build, in our directory up here. So the idea is you allow whoever's using the SDK targets the ability to define a path. So you want that to be like that. Come on. So Feersum bin release 5 Feersum DLL. And then in here, we add a condition where we say if the compiler path is empty. The way you do that in MSBuild is just by templating it into a string and checking to see if the string is empty. If it is, we will, well, what I guess is that these want to be what we want the SDK to do is if you haven't already got a compiler path, we'll add a project reference, but we don't want it to be a project reference. We want to say, I think we want package reference. Yeah, so we've got a package reference. If you don't have a compiler already, and we just want to do Feersum, and I don't know what version, how we're gonna deal with that. Feersum package version. I'm gonna put this here and just check what the latest version is on NuGet, which is 0.1.2 for the time being. So we'll set that to 0.1.2 and come up with a way of stubbing that out to be the current version later. Because the problem is we need to template that into these files when we build. So I'll put fix me in there as well. Then, yeah, this wants to be version. I'm going to. Yeah, it's just going to be version equals Feersum compiler package version. Then this doesn't need to do set configuration. In fact, it probably just wants to be a copy, but refer to reefer instead. The same version, and in this one, what do we want to say? No implicit so if that we'll have a thing for no implicit Feersum core reference, and we can define that up here as well. And we'll say condition equals if it isn't set, come on. Then we'll set it to false. I think that stuff looks like it kind of works. I'm going to separate these into two separate property groups because this property group is control the, what is this? Oh, that's control the implicit package references. Use for the compiler and core. Where's the compiler? So there's a few other things you want to set here. So we'd include the compiler. We'd also set private assets all so that we don't get anything depending on it. What else can we set? So let's make this a bit bigger. We include assets. There's something about build. This is the one I want. Generate path property makes a property called package sum package. So we'll be able to use this to pick out the actual path to our tool. Locking, no, restore. I thought there was a way to specify that you didn't want to actually reference it either. Include access. Because build is not included. Props will. No, that's not what we want. Generate package path. Okay. So if we've got a tools folder, we automatically get one. But I guess we can be explicit. Or can we? So we got private assets. Does it include assets? Contents. I guess it's exclude assets all. But we could just do build. Was it compile runtime? Let's just use it all. And then it was generate package path. Generate path property. So hopefully with that set, we should be able to say if the Feersum compiler path is empty, we will have added a package reference. Then when we get down to here and evaluate this, we'll see if the compiler path is empty. We can do pkg Feersum, which will be the path to that. And then we can do, well, what does Feersum look like? Let's find the package. Come on. There's barely anything in there. All these red things telling us that we're doing it wrong. Tools, net 5. Tools, net 5, any. Feersum.dll. I think is what I'm going to go for. So that should mean that if we don't set, let's set that property so that we don't end up with the implicit core reference, because we don't need to build that twice. But can we run it with a local compiler? There's a lot going on here. Impressive. -v equals n. So just so you see what's actually being done by MSBuild behind the scenes. So it's building Feersum, and it's running .NET on our locally built copy of Feersum with a core-live path set to the reference assembly for mono, passing in hello. Output type is hello world. Then, if we do .NET, if we change it so we don't set the compiler path and do the same thing, hopefully we should end up with, okay, so it's now downloaded a copy of our compiler and things have not quite worked. Because we're missing a slash. What? Seems inconceivable. That was quite close though for a complete. There's an awful lot of reading docs and stuff before that was actually even run. I'm surprised that it went that smoothly. And there you go. So if you don't specify a path to the compiler, it will download a copy of our compiler and run that instead, which is nice. So the things that we still need to fix up. So let's go through the to-do. We separated out the props and targets. We're making an MSBuild NuGet package. We don't yet support multiple source files. And I guess another thing here is download matching compiler. So the problem here is in our target file, we're hard coding this version to be 0.1.2, which means that when we publish a new version of the SDK won't pull down a matching compiler. It'll instead it will pull down 0.1.2 each time. Oh, we don't really want to have to bump that every single time. I wonder if you can template in .NET Pack. Very interesting. But it's probably time to go through. It's probably time to go through and commit some stuff. Oh, we can probably add the hello world. Because this is now using an SDK. No, still not happy. Contact your SDK provider for support. What are we missing here? Oh, I wonder if this is the language thing. So in the other SDK, the IL SDK, they set a property that's all design time stuff, which we don't care about. That's at the top. Default language source extension and language. I think we need to set all three of these in our targets file as well, but we need to set them to the appropriate thing. Oh man, I really wish copy and paste wasn't for some reason broken. This is probably just going to be a bug in Firefox, isn't it? Default language source extension. Declare. I'm just checking in here because I think there was some place where they conditionally included based on the whether or not it was IL proj. Was that somewhere in the SDK? Oh, the SDK included common, and then this did managed before, managed after, and no, not this then. Was it just in the SDK targets file? Yes, if the project extension equals IL proj, the language target. Ooh, okay. Interesting. Yes, so language targets is something that you can set so that when you import SDK targets, it imports your language targets in the same place it would do if it was a C# or whatever. Let's hold off on that. Well, there we go. But we can set all of those properties. So declare our language support to .NET SDK, which is going to be property group default language source extension. Which is just going to be SCM. I don't think that really matters other than like when you try and create a new file in the file explorer. It wouldn't matter for globbing, but we have that turned off. Language is going to be language. Yep. And I keep on clicking accidentally. Target runtime manage. I don't really know. No, I'm not going to paste. I'm not going to paste. Target runtime. Target runtime. Target runtime. This is why we copy and paste. Now can I edit? No. SCM project has an unknown project type. What happens if we did contact our SDK provider? Oh, we don't really actually need that bit, do we? That's just going to be. What does this say? This. Project type GUIDs in the project file. We're failing to add hello world, but hello world is like. There's a .NET SDK one now. Project type GUIDs. Do I need to set it? Currently, MSBuild only sets default project type GUID from the language properties of a project that is not cross-targeting. So this is probably to do with the fact that we don't set the language targets file. Does it matter? Default project type GUID in the F# SDK. We need a new GUID for this. Let's go to SharpLab. And we'll do system.guid.newguid.inspect. Look at that fresh GUID. Then I think in is this it? no. No. .NET FSI. Yeah. System.GUID.NuGet. Oh no, I'm trapped. Kill the process. .NET FSI, which is the F# interactive environment. System.GUID.NuGet. Why are you not? Yes, interrupt. Open system. GUID. NuGet. What am I doing wrong here? Oh. Need to do system.GUID.NuGet and 2 semicolons. There we go. And now we can copy it. Which I think also needed these around it. And we wanted to uppercase it. And then I'm going to say it's the default, not the real one. Default project type GUID in the F# SDK. Well, we'll have a look and find out later where it sets it, but hopefully we can now do .NET sln dot add examples. Hello. Boom. Now we can do .NET build. And hello examples should be built as part of everything else. I'm also tempted to avoid the duplication for building Feersum twice. So let's just do what we got stage. We've got adding the examples. We've got the no implicit Feersum core reference. I'm tempted to update these build props and get rid of that, or at least comment it out so we don't build that twice. Got git crush, which tells me anything will be killed by git clean, which we can do. Okay. Now if I do a build, what happens? Fingers crossed. Everything. build once. So we're building 3 for twice because we built it for 2 different target frameworks, but ooh, that's because that needs to be dollar configuration. Good. Hello World has been built. Feersum was built only once, and we're running the debug build of the compiler, which is probably what we want. So let's go through and stage that. So we've got adding support in the... Yeah, I think that's missed out from the last one, to be honest, that build props file. We've got the property group to set the default project type GUID. No implicit Feersum core reference. Oh, no, it wasn't. So, this is all about supporting SDK style use of the Feersum SDK. Support over get compiler from NuGet if not specified. Allow local builds to share the targets file with SDK style builds. If no path to the compiler is provided, we'll instead pull one from get. Boom. Now, let's have a go. Multiple source files? Yeah, so I'll explain the problem here. So, hey, suppose we've got, let's switch to examples, make another directory, multi-file. We'll do multi-file. Boom. Make a new console one, and then we will fix it up to be a valid scheme one. So multi-file. Have an item group because we don't support specifying any compiler items. If I just do .NET run now, this will fail because there's no source file specified. I think what's going to happen is that the compiler will end up running the REPL. Well, we'll find out. Verbosity is normal. Did I mess something up? Because that path does not look correct. Source Feersum bin. We're missing a debug. I just made a change to a thing that had configuration in there, didn't I? Feersum scheme compiler path. Is this happening too early? Ah. Hey, Grumpy. I don't know if I've missed your raid or not. I've been distracted. Currently battling with trying to produce an MSBuild SDK so that you can define .NET projects that run my compiler. So it was working, but then I did this thing where I stopped doing set configuration, and now it looks like it's not working. How can the Hello World one work? Is the Hello World gonna fail as well? No. But R1 does? Oh, probably because configuration hasn't been set yet, but will be when I do the build at the root. I bet that sets configuration. So if I did .NET build, I should build the release compiler and import that and run it fine. So building the core library in release. Yeah, and then we end up with the error that we expected where we're accidentally running the REPL. Come on, get rid of it. So there's two problems to solve here. Let's do the compiler configuration. So this is just going to be the configuration of our compiler that we want to run. And it's going to be condition. I will do compiler configuration is just dollar configuration. And then we can just stub it out if it isn't already set. Condition. And I've not done nearly enough copying here for this to be guaranteed to work on the first time. No, dollar like that. If the configuration is empty, then we set it to debug, which is a bit of a hack, but it should hopefully mean I can then do .NET build, .NET build like that. And it should stub out to the same, oh, damn it. So optimistic. Go on then. Let's see what have I ended up with as the path. Oh, I mean, I've templated out compiler configuration, but I don't have to actually use it. Nice. So, hello, thank you, compiler. So there's a few things we want to fix then. But let's get rid of that. And let's add some new file. We'll do main.scheme and lib.scheme. And then this will do import multi-file test, which will be our library, and then it can do create world, because that's the most complex program I can come up with. Define library multi-file test is going to be export greet import scheme right begin, and in here we can define greet thing right hello. Oh no, we don't want to use right, we want to use display. Display hello, display thing, and then display. And we can combine the exclamation mark and the new line into a single thing. So now if I from the command line was to go Feersum scheme o a.dll dash output type lib.scheme and compile the library into a DLL, and then I was to do Feersum scheme o b.exe type exe main.scheme dash reference a.dll. What's gone wrong there? Could not find file dash reference. Okay, so that's because I've just got things in the wrong order here. Now, how about this? Okay, .NET tool update G. I'm using the global 2 version of the compiler here. That's why, and it's just out of date. Hey Bob, I'm doing good. I'm doing just trying to build an SDK, a .NET SDK for my compiler, and just generally it's gone pretty well, except for the key thing that the compiler doesn't really support at the moment is being able to have more than one source file, which I hear is common in programming. So could not find library multi-file test. Maybe not. So what's gone on here? Have I just spelt it wrong? Oh no, that's the sound of a cat. So is this a form of list compiler? This is a form of list compiler. This is a compiler for the Scheme programming language. So Scheme is a kind of Lisp that you can kind of compile into, like, do ahead of time compilation on, because when you write, I'll go find some more examples. So we have this spec folder. So things like here, when you have P, we know we can determine at compile time which P you're talking about. It's this one here, because the scopes are static, which means that you can compile it down. We're modeling everything in .NET as just objects, but it works. It doesn't have to be the fastest. Could not find, and then undefined symbol greet. Oh, that's because, what's wrong with a.dll? Maybe I just need to recompile a. Because a.dll was lib. No. a.dll lib.scheme. What's this? Wow. What on earth's going wrong here? Source Feersum. Let's try and run the local copy of the compiler rather than the published one. Maybe that'll work a bit better. Hey, Goku Jacks. Bin. How's it going? We've got bin net. Yeah. Our bin debug. We haven't actually changed the compiler recently, but who knows? So that works. How about -oa.dll lib.scm? Yeah, it's not happy. And it's built-ins.fs line 163. Is it just not finding? Get constructors. Oh, have we failed to load the library or something? Well, this is a sidetrack. Let's Feersum compile, and then we need to edit the inputs here. So it's going to be yeah, input SCM to compile. We can just use this target straight away. We're just going to do scheme file is going to be examples multi-file lib.scm. Everything's crawling. Goku Choices, is this your first F# project? Kind of. It's not the first time I've ever written F#, but it's my first big project, and it's the first time I've written F# in a long time. Well, I'll say a long time. It's been like 2 years now building this thing, but I hadn't used it for quite a while before then. So what is the exception? Okay, so this is not actually the problem. I've just typoed the file path. Examples multi-file. It's gonna be case, isn't it? Come on. I hope this is something trivial in the end. Object constructor. Let's just wait until it throws. Or even worse, it didn't throw. Right. So I suspect what do I suspect here? I suspect that in targets we are somehow or other messing up this location for this. So let's rerun that compiler. Example multi-file lib.scm. It's going to be calling from current runtime because we don't specify an MS core lib path. So this is where we try and I should just hardcode that path to be correct for the time being. Copy relative, paste. Also, if you're just joining us, for some reason, copying and pasting from outside visuals, outside code into code causes a slight pause, and then it doesn't actually paste anything, which is really annoying when you try and paste anything from the web. But luckily, that was within the same project. So same again, but this time, hopefully, it's going to find the source file. So better be a good bug in the end. So from current runtime, you mean, yeah, sure. What is target? MS Core lib location is Microsoft.NET Core app, system private core lib, fine. The other one's a full path. And then it's going to go into load reference signatures. Built-ins, load core signatures. We kind of want to step into there, don't we? I think it's this load core types that. Let's just step. I think that kind of works. We end up with all the scheme base libraries. Creates an empty scope, binds it. And then in load core types, we look up the function type and then yeah, we've got both of those. Why on earth was it able to... Well, where do we load those assemblies? We can tweak the compiler and see. Custom assembly reader params. Could that be the problem? We just disabled reading symbols. Anyway, this was a long sidetrack, and let's just ignore it and pretend it works. Because when we actually try and build the project, it's going to fail in a different way, which was if we were in examples multi-file and we do .NET build and we have more than one file. So the multi-file project, we want to have two compile items. So we want to have a compile for lib.scm because we want that to come first, and then we want to compile include equals main.scm to come second because we want the first one to be able to define things that the second one can then use. But things fail because what? That was what we were seeing before. But does the hello world one work? Okay. Interesting. .NET. Yeah, so our compiler is... Okay, so that's worked. Could not find library multi-file test. Okay. think the problem here is the fact that there are 2 core lib paths. I bet if we change this to be net47 or something. This would compile without throwing an exception. Yes. So that just could not find. And then interesting. Load core types. It's failing to find a specific type. But I think... what? Which type is it? We can, however, if we do v equals cube. So v equals n will be enough to get more logging. We should be able to find the compiler path that it's actually executing and then rerun it ourselves. Back to the target launch JSON. So, source Feersum bin debug net 5 Feersum DLL is fine because that's the same as the program. Then we do -- core lib path. Come on. That's the reference assembly for .NET 4.7. Then another core lib path. Which is system runtime. Then we say lib, which is gonna be workspace root examples multi-file lib. Same thing for main. Well, actually, we could set this as the current working directory, couldn't we? That would be the closest to what's happening. Nope. I wanted to go to the end of the line because I need to put a comma there. Then configuration was debug. Output type is exe. Just put these on one line. And the output location is object debug blah blah blah. So now if we try and run this, hopefully you'd have hoped that we would end up with the same error that the compiler gets. Cancel target. Fingers crossed that was the thing that I did wrong. Yeah. So now doing with MSCalllib path. Which is going to be system runtime. I'm loading the core signatures. Okay. And then I think we can just forward on until here. We've got system runtime. Right. So name is, what's it trying to look for? System.func. So try and find system.func, and it can't find it in either of these assemblies. System runtime. Why is it looking in system runtime? We specified 2 core lib paths. What even is this? Build extensions. I think this is partly because we don't support type forwarders, and I imagine the system runtime we've ended up being given by MSBuild doesn't type forward properly. Build extensions 461 lib system runtime. And I imagine they're just all going to type forward to MS core lib. What we really want to support here is, so like I reckon if we changed our launch JSON so that we only pass in the actual MS core lib, this would work. If that is the case, I think the proper solution is that we need to load all of the core libs, not just support what we do at the moment, which is only a single core lib. So this bullet point might change from being support multiple files to support more than one core lib. Value cannot be null. Okay, yeah, so get resolved type. So type name, this export. We saw this one before as well. Why is this so, like, why is all this stuff so broken? It seemed to work fine. It's because I was trying to show it off. Software can sense weakness when you try and demo. Built-ins.fs. So type is null. Get resolve type. So it must have found a type, but failed to resolve it. So can we start from the beginning? And then when it finds the type, don't think we need those breakpoints. That is... Come on, I want to have a look at the target MSBuild path. Yeah, why is it this thing? Get rid of that. Let's try the other option from the launch JSON. I mean, actually neither of these are excellent. Let's just... net 5.0. Then redo this. Oh no, not that. Redo. Where was the build? .NET build the fee equals n. System runtime. Put this one in our launch JSON. And only this one. What do we get? Somehow or other we've ended up... Oh no, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to rerun the debugger. Somehow or other we're ending up with reference assemblies that we can't find the types that we need in. But given that the type that we're looking for is system.func, I'm not sure. I mean, you would really hope. Let's also get rid of this breakpoint and add it inside the method. Yeah. So find that func. So we're going to try and get func tick 2. That bit all works. Good. Get imported type. It's going to call get type. This is all going to work. Type name, runtime helpers, initialize array. So this export attribute. So why does if we add an expression for type name equals this? Then let's start all over again. So type name, no. Do I need to like, yeah, save that. Okay, now type name is Lisp export. So this is the one that failed. I'm going to call get imported type, which is going to call get type, which is going to return a type. Can I do $return value? Where's the debug console? That's nice. So it is the Lisp export attribute. But has methods is true. got two methods. The constructor and the property accessor. So we're then going to import reference that. And then we're going to call resolve on this thing. So it's now, instead of it being a type reference, it should be a type, which way around is that? Either way, it's basically moved from being a type in a foreign assembly to a reference to the type in our assembly. Still there. And we're going to call .resolve. Okay. And resolve returns null. But why? Let's try and have a look at what .resolve is trying to do. No, not that. We want the GitHub page. It's a type resolver. Are we just doing the wrong thing here? I'm wondering if it's basically it's failing to load the corresponding assembly. But so get imported type was working on, or get single CTOR. Get single CTOR was working for these earlier. So I don't know, why would .resolve on a type reference? So if it's an array or a pointer or by reference, which it isn't. Doesn't look like it should ever return null. Start again and see whether or not I can step into that. Step in, no. So could we do, instead of doing get resolved type here, I don't understand this because like various other things seem to be working. So what's special about the Lisp export attribute that's meaning this is not working? I mean, it looks like a really simple class. I wonder, could it have anything to do with all this crap that's in this folder? Specifically, that file. If you just move that all out of the way. Now try it. Will the resolve work? Because I wonder if what's happening is that we're somehow or other pulling the wrong assembly. Let's get imported type. Dot resolve. What is tie now? Yes. So that's returned something. Interesting. Very interesting. So I bet if we go back to this terminal and just did a .NET build now, we would end up with the error that we were originally trying to produce, and that all of this time has been wasted. Yeah, so it's trying to compile the two separate things separately, and the second reference to main.scm doesn't have any memory of the previous thing. So what we want to do is in program, we currently do a little bit of work to decide whether or not to run the REPL or not. So I think if there are no sources, but you do specify an output file, we should get an error. So let's just arg start get result output. Try get result. So if there are no sources and no output, we run the REPL. If there were no sources but there were, we want an error. Which is just going to be no source files provided output. Fail. And then the last one is going to be, we have some files and we have an output. And then we can just replace this bit here. Then, instead of doing sum by and compile single, I think we want to do compile all. I don't know who uses compile single. Can I just replace the whole thing? Oh, only the entry point. In which case, compile all. Then we'll say let main source equals list dot last main source, because we assume that that one is the final sources. Do that there, main source. Then this can be sources, compile files. Then what does compile file do? Well, compile file should probably call compile files options output source, and then we will just refactor the whole thing so that this compile files takes a list of strings. Read a collection. Takes the sources to input and read. Compilation results are into output. Good. Blah, blah, blah. Normalizing the output path, and then get file name without extension sources list dot last. So we just take the last one. Come on, last. There we go. Just take the last source file and use that for the stem if we need one. Then diagnostics. So think I think we might be able to get away with just like parsing all the files one by one and running them through bind as one big thing. So compile files. That bit I think should work. And then I think what we want to do here is list.map parse file sources. And then so that's passed. Then I think what we're going to do is we want to return seek dot map. We'll take the AST node from past. We'll take the AST node from past and we will turn that into AST node dot seek. AST node. We just want kind equals AST node kind dot seek past. That doesn't make sense. Let's take all the nodes. What are we doing here? Maybe we want to fold this. And then we can say nodes diagnostics equals or fold. No, list. Oh, map. So map pass file and then list dot fold. And then we're gonna say node and D. So we're gonna take a list of nodes, diags, and a new node and a new diag. And we're going to return n nodes d diags, and we're going to start off with the pair of the empty lists, maybe. Right. And then what we want to do is we want to return something diagnostics. And we can do nodes List up first nodes for the time being. Head? What is nodes? I see. So now wait. It's become a list of lists. That's not what we wanted. We want list append. So that can be concat. Nope. It is append. Nodes. Here's now a list of nodes. Then we can do a kind of location text location dot missing kind dot sequence and then the nodes, maybe. No assignment given field kind of type syntax node. Ah, yes, because I've messed that up. Text location syntax dot I just do missing. No. Is it in syntax? So it might be in diagnostics. Okay, yeah, so I'm looking for this missing parse, which is apparently private. Great. So we could just do type, we could just do text location dot missing. Right. Now, does this build? Compile single is not defined. Ah, yes, because we want to do compile all output options files. It takes an options, an option, and a list. What are you upset about? That is still the old compile error. It's just being attributed to the wrong token. So all of the stuff that used to work works, or at least by works I mean still compiles. Now, can we build the multi-file example? The proof is in the .NET run. Not bad. And so just to show what's happening there, we have this example here. We have this multi-file CS project, which has two includes for lib and main. In lib, we're defining greet as being hello something and then an exclamation mark at the end. In main, we're calling greet world. So these are two separate files. The order here matters in terms of being able to see things from previous declarations, and I can just prove that this is actually what's happening by going greetings from another file. Then put some quotes, some tasteful quotes. Then .NET Run should compile our compiler, compile our core library, and use the compiler to build the output. And then, just for lulz, shall we see whether or not we can get this to run on .NET Framework as well? So net 472. Is that going to work? Oh, no, maybe we need 471 or just 47. Just trying to remember which version of Mono we have installed. The Hello World example is currently set up to run on Mono. It's 472. Oh, great. That didn't work. .NET. So this, I think, is the fact that we have two core lib paths, system runtime from the build extensions, and we're actually compiling against the reference assemblies NuGet package. Let's try this. Is that going to work? Just literally copying and pasting the target framework. And that hopefully is running on Mono. So for some reason, net47 is using the build NuGets. And the problem there is the fact that because it has two separate core libs, the MS core lib and system runtime, we don't look in the right one for system func and things like that. Really, the proper solution there is that we should support more than one core lib and look in all of them, but I think this is it for today. So changes to our launch JSON can be discarded because we don't need that anymore. We have compiler configuration fix-ups. We have the new lib.scm, main.scm, multi-file. So we can leave that one as net 5.0. Just check that still runs. Bin sounds like we should revert that. We have the compile files and compile file. Does anyone actually use compile file anymore? Find all references. No. In which case, let's just get rid of it. I'm wondering whether or not the test project uses it. Just going to rebuild and check. Yeah. A test project uses it. I mean, it's not a terrible API to maintain, so we can do that. Just wondering about whether or not we want to like build a better tree for the root. Yeah, we can leave it. I was just wondering about that because at the moment we're gonna have if you've got like 3 files, you'll have like you'll have a sequence containing 3 different sequences which contain all of the like individual statements. Flattening it would be a nice to have, but I mean it's a nice to have, not a requirement. So that's it. Compile, and then in the root program we have a slight change. So while the first thing is that now let's try this out. If I try and do .NET run, and then I try and do output equals spec bin a.dll, but don't provide anything. Oh, I underspelled .NET correctly. Which is the case when you try and run a compiler, but there are no source files. Hopefully, we should see this no source files provided for output a.dll. Is that what we get? No. What did I do wrong? It is output. Don't know. Yeah. No source files provided for output. And then do want to make these kinds of unhandled errors better. Compile. collection of files. Printing an error if there is one. I think this could probably be printfn to print it to the error. Right. And then exit. And that should hopefully result in a slightly nicer experience. Come on. Boom. No source for files provided. And if I do $255, nice. Will do for the time being. So these changes are support multiple files for a single assembly. Compile multiple files into a single output. This is required for larger projects. Order of files is important. This can be controlled by the order of compile elements in the project. Where did we go over? Is it here? Close enough. Boom. So that's it, I think. The rest of this stuff is going to be for another day. So the two remaining things are that the SDK will hard code the version of the compiler it uses to this 0.1.2. Oof. I mean, we could do a quick change so that you can pin that. Yes, go on, let's do it. So we're going to add a condition to this. So we'll only set the package version if you haven't set it already. So if you haven't set a Feersum compiler package version, we'll set it to 0.1.2. Which means that at least from the end user's point of view, you'll be able to override it for the time being. We have our, the language target stuff as well, was the fact that the way that our SDK is currently working is in the SDK targets. We don't just import the SDK direct. We just import the SDK directly, whereas what the Microsoft IL package does is this little bit of code here. So it sets the language targets and then imports the SDK targets. And what that means is that this common file gets imported, and then this does a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. Probably more than we need to be doing. Which basically does managed before targets, managed after targets, and then this cross-targeting build stuff where it does IL targets. But fingers crossed, ours should at least generally work, even though it's hard-coded in the package version. So that's it. In today's stream, we have converted our old example into this project here. So now none of the targets are in this file. They're all in the SDK. And we've set it so that it should get packaged up. We're using the build no targets SDK to support being able to do .NET Build and .NET Pack without actually producing any output assemblies. We're packing our SDK and targets folder. We've got all of our MSBuild. We're using this pair of directory build props and build targets in the examples folder to conditionally, like to kind of dog food our targets so that we'll import that as if it was a NuGet package effectively. And then because we've set up in our props file this set of project references, our targets file won't add the references, the package references. Instead, it'll use these project references. But if we do change it so that we don't set the Feersum compiler path, instead comment it out and then do the same thing. Let's do examples. No. Change to examples, multi-file. We do .NET run now. This should, well, you can't see it doing it. It's building the compiler still because I didn't tell it not to. Could not find library. Oh, yes. I guess that's proof that it's working. So if you look, it's trying to run the Feersum compiler from 0.1.2. But the problem there is it doesn't support multi-files. But if we did go to hello world and ran the same thing, again, it would run our compiler from the NuGet package it's downloaded rather than the local copy. So hopefully that's it for SDK stuff. Maybe in the next stream we'll have a go at using an example NuGet and fixing the last couple of to-do items here for properly downloading a matching compiler so that every time we build an SDK, we use the corresponding compiler, and using the language targets to make sure that our targets file gets imported in the correct part of the flow for the SDK build. Right, let's just have let's go on a raid. Apparently only one of the people I follow is online. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.